or just to avoid the noise. And folks will come in, and that's exciting. That's what we want in a partnership, people to come in as time goes on. So welcome to everyone, ladies, gentlemen, distinguished guests. There's some folks online. Welcome to you all today. Thank you for joining us to talk about strengthening ambition and action for biodiversity. And specifically, we're going to talk about the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership. My name is Doreen Robinson, and I'm the head of Biodiversity and Land at UNEP, based in our headquarters in Nairobi. And it's a pleasure to get us started today. Before we dive into things, I want to acknowledge that we're learning, speaking, and coming together on the ancestral homelands of the Munsee and Lenape peoples. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend our gratitude for their stewardship on this land and water. A lot of water around here. I also want to express my sincere appreciation to our hosts. And I'm very impressed with the snacks in this facility. UNEP never has those. The Nature Positive Hub and also Nature for Climate for providing us with this platform, but also for being our partner. This is all about partnership. This is about growing how we all work together better, smarter to accelerate action for biodiversity. So thank you. The program will be in English, but we have Spanish and French interpretations. So if you need that, please grab a headset. They are around somewhere, I guess at the back of the room where Eva's raising her hand. So the reason we've gathered here today is clear. We're marking the launch of an operational phase of the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership, which was initially introduced at COP15 in Canada, and we're very excited about that. This partnership, driven by Colombia and Germany, represents a country-led global initiative, a demand-driven initiative aimed at expediting the implementation of national biodiversity strategic action plans, that unfortunate acronym of NBSAPs. Through the accelerator's role as a neutral broker, and it is meant to be a neutral broker, it aims to provide coherent access to financial, technical support, offer customized in-country and regional facilitation, and also elevate the political profile of NBSAPs. It's meant to be a connector, help countries make sense, connect the dots, and get things done. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the esteemed co-chairs of this initiative, or right now co-chair, the other one we hope is going to pop in the door any second. So first I have the pleasure to introduce Dr. Christiane Paulus, and I always have to read your very long 3-line title, the Director General, I've introduced you enough, I should know it. The Director General for Nature Conservation, Sustainable Use of Natural Resources, and Nature-Based Climate Action at the Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety, and Consumer Protection in Germany. You have the floor.
Yeah, dear colleagues, dear Doreen, that was perfect without any mistake. And to make you feel better, I also have to read it. And I always find it very German because we like to put as many substantives as possible in one row. So, but usually I introduce myself as the Director General for Biodiversity. So this is also possible. Yeah, dear colleagues, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I'm very pleased to be here today with you and to give you a few remarks at the beginning of this session on why Germany is supporting and is the co-chair of this initiative. Doreen has already given us a few words about the history of this partnership, that with this very, very big success during COP15, we were thinking we really need to do something now on action, on implementation on the ground, and supporting the countries in implementing the ambitious goals that we have been deciding on. And I think for all of us, the Montreal conference was a great boost of motivation and hope, but at the same time it has shown to us that we also have great responsibility, because all the figures that are around show that there's not much time for us to act. I'm also convinced, and that is a principle in German policy, that the implementation can only be achieved together and in partnership. We are very strong in bilateral and multilateral cooperation. And this is why we immediately after COP15, together with Colombia, who was also with us from the very beginning, started working on this partnership and setting up the structures. So it has been a very intense year. It's not only, it's even less than a year with lessons learned and hard work. And I see a lot of you have been with us early this week on Monday on the first meeting of the interim steering committee of the partnership, where we confirmed main decisions, discussed, invited for comments, and we set up the initial core arrangements and operations, including the partnership framework documents, initial governance arrangements, and country engagement process. So all this administrative stuff and developing a platform and a structure has been worked out in the last month, and I'm very happy that we came so far and have a good structure now to really go into action. I would like to reiterate the support of Germany in this process, and I would like to once again mention what my minister, Steffi Lemke, has been announcing yesterday, two important pledges that are relevant to the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership to support countries in implementing the global biodiversity framework. And please allow me to say a few more words on this. The first pledge that was made yesterday is that we will support the partnership with an additional financial contribution of 10 million euros to achieve a whole of government and whole of society approach through in-country facilitators, because I think these in-country facilitators are a really, really important part of the cooperation. Those facilitators shall enhance national and support national and local capacities, and shall bring multi-stakeholder persons together to update and to implement the NBSAP. And this includes mainstreaming of readiness support, alignment of work and coordination for delivery of the 3 Rio Conventions and the SDGs. I think this will help us to translate country priorities into actionable and concrete requests for support that can be met through matchmaking facilities, one of the other main components of the partnership. The second pledge that Germany is happy to announce is the support of the work of the Biodiversity Indicator Partnership, in short, the BIP initiative, with 15 million euro in a 7-year program. I know that these work on data, on monitoring and things like that is always not politically so very, let me say, sexy or easy to sell, but I think it's of utmost importance to have the data and to have a good basis on developing the plan. And the objective of this partnership is to develop inclusive, collaborative and gender responsive approaches, and will also support countries in enhancing national biodiversity monitoring systems for effective implementation. And I say that because I'm sure that if we want to reach our targets, we need the data, we need measurable monitoring and figures. Otherwise, we will not know whether we have made progress or not. Yeah, the BIP initiative will be launched later this year during the Substar meeting in Nairobi, and supports goal 2 of the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership, that is developing the technical and institutional capacity of government agencies and national organizations to effectively implement NBSAPs and monitor and report progress. I would like to come to the end of my speech by reiterating to you, this is a partnership and we need all of you and everyone on board. We mean you here in this room. We mean the countries, that it shall be a country-driven process. We mean the institution and NGOs, and you are all invited to join and to contribute in this partnership. And it's with my great pleasure that China recently joined the partnership. This is also a great signal of support for us, and we will hear more about it later in a video speech given by the Environment Minister of China. So I think we are going to the next level with this. The NBSAP partnership is about building a movement to increase collective action and political ambition for nature positive actions aligned with the GBF. And I would also like to thank my colleagues from Norway, who have been a strong partner from the very beginning, supporting us also a lot with funds and human resources. Most especially, I would like to thank the colleagues from Colombia. We have not been only working with a lot of trust and a spirit of collaboration. We have more or less become friends through the many meetings that we have in the years. And I'm very much looking forward to continue this work. And I also would like to thank the CBD Secretariat, UNEP, UNDP, and all other stakeholders. And I'm looking forward for upcoming contributions and for the very nice and fruitful discussion today. Thank you very much.
So not much time to act, only in partnership and together. And biodiversity indicators are not sexy. That's what I take away. But I also take away that we're going to the next level. So we welcome all the partners again in the room, because I know some of you have just come in, and those of you who have joined us online. My next line is that I'm eagerly awaiting Colombia's input, but I'm still eagerly awaiting Colombia's input. So what we're going to do now is look at, we do have a message on video from Mr. Huang Runcao, who is the minister at the Ministry of Ecology and Environment at the People's Republic of China, and also the CBD COP15 president. So let's hear that message.
尊敬的各位阁下、女士们、先生们，大家好！很高兴与大家线上相聚。在这里啊，我作为联合国生物多样性公约第15次缔约方大会 COP15 的主席，并代表中国生态环境部，向所有关心、支持、参与生物多样性保护的各界人士表示衷心的感谢。生物多样性是维系人类福祉、地球健康和经济繁荣的基础。中国作为主席国，在国际社会的大力支持和共同努力下，我们分2个阶段成功召开了 COP15， 推动达成了历史性兼具雄心和务实平衡的昆明、蒙特利尔全球生物多样性框架等一揽子具有里程碑意义的成果，为全球生物多样性治理拨画了蓝图，确定了目标，明确了路径，也凝聚了力量。当前啊，加快修订国家生物多样性战略与行动计划 NBSAP， 将全球目标转化为各国的实际行动，是各缔约方的首要任务。作为 COP15 的主席，我高度赞赏哥伦比亚和德国发起的 NBSAP 加速器伙伴关系，这为国际社会提供了一个将国家需求与合作伙伴进行对接的合作平台，有利于增进各方的了解，促进相关倡议和机制的协同增效，对推动昆明框架的落实将发挥积极作用。我相信这将是一系列务实行动的开始，希望更多的缔约方和国际组织加入加速器伙伴关系，为发展中国家实施 NBSAP 提供更多的资源、技术和能力建设的支持。作为主席国， 中国将继续发挥引领作用，支持有利于推动昆明框架实施的所有行动，发起昆明框架实施倡议，发挥好昆明生物多样性基金的作用，为发展中国家提供力所能及的帮助和支持。我们愿与各方一道努力，共同推进 COP15 大会决定的落实，昆明框架目标的落地，推动全球生物多样性走向恢复之路，共建人与自然和谐共生的地球家园。谢谢大家。尊敬的各位阁下，
Thank you. There we go. The word action was in that quite a few times, and I think that's what we're here about. We're here about partnership and action. It's about cutting through the talk. It's about cutting through some of the bureaucracy and some of the processes that can be cumbersome and accelerating action. I'll go back to time is short. We don't have much time left. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over, but also make an invitation. This is not a project. This is a partnership. All hands on deck. We have one planet, and we don't have enough time to save it. So today, tomorrow, the next day, please, we welcome, we invite partnership. Everyone has something to contribute. We have to work more collaboratively, more efficiently, more effectively together. So please, we welcome others to join this partnership and look forward to deepening it over time. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Francine Pickup from UNDP, who's going to walk us through the next session of the event.
Hello, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here. I'm going to be moderating the next section, which is really about how we move to action. So can I ask my fellow panelists to join? So Catherine and Mariana, nice to meet you, and Rita. Yes. So please make yourself comfortable, have a seat. So this session now, we're moving into part 2, and it's called Collaborative Solutions to Deliver on the Accelerator Partnership and Strengthen NBSAPs. I'm Francine. I also have to think about my title. It's been a year, but it's still requires concentration. Deputy Director of the Bureau of Policy and Program at UNDP, and then Deputy Associate Administrator. So, all right. So before we start, let me just express my really heartfelt appreciation of Germany, of Colombia for their leadership. And it's really exciting to have others join the partnership. We've already mentioned Norway. We saw China's engagement as well. So this is really exciting. We'd really like to thank you for your leadership and support for this important initiative. So let's move forward, and I'd want to introduce the first speaker, who's going to play a really crucial role in advancing the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Madden, who's the newly appointed Global Coordinator for the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership Global Coordination Unit, which is collectively supported by UNDP, UNEP, and the CBD Secretariat. So, Catherine, you're going to provide us with a little bit of a presentation on the accelerator, what it's going to do, and how we can work together on this. So, Catherine, over to you.
Sorry, I just got too many things in my hand. First of all, good morning, and it's a very warm welcome to everyone. I should say I am the interim global coordinator, but I should say more officially that I'm going to be. So I don't actually start till October, but it seemed like too good an opportunity to waste. So I'm really happy to be here. And before we get started, I'd like to know who's in the room. Do we have any NGOs or civil society reps? Oh, quite a few here. I suspect there might be 1 or 2 UN representatives here. Handful of them. Any business? Excellent. Great to see a few business organizations and representatives present. And of course, very important also to our countries. Any countries here? We've got Germany here. Any others? Canada? A few others around the back. Great. So my job today really is to understand kind of what role all of you are going to play in the NBSAP Accelerator. And as I said, I won't know really until beginning of October what it's all about, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. I've got a few slides for you. First of all, just to highlight, building on the words of Doreen and others, that the overall goal is to provide a high level of action and ambition and to increase actions to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. So that's our overall big vision. How we're going to do it in terms of the purpose of our partnership, it's a country-led partnership that strengthens and accelerates the implementation of NBSAPs aligned to the Montreal Kunming GBF. In terms of our overall goals, we have 6. These goals really are, first of all, about supporting countries with developing their NBSAPs. And in some cases, that's about updating, and some cases about aligning those to existing approaches. Secondly, to develop technical and operational capacity. Thirdly, to facilitate access to finance. Fourthly, to mainstream biodiversity across productive sectors. Fifth, to provide knowledge management, sharing learning, sharing information. And 6, as Doreen mentioned, really to keep biodiversity high on the agenda. And that's high on the agenda both at a national level, also internationally. So we're going to work together to help achieve these 6 objectives. It was launched, the initial idea of the accelerator was launched at COP15 under the leadership of Colombia. And of course, we had the initial funding provided by the German government, supported operationally by UNEP, by UNDP, and by CBD, all coming together to support the Global Coordination Unit. Membership is open, okay? Membership is open to countries and organizations that have a high level of ambition towards biodiversity and achieving the NBSAPs. At the moment, we have 22 members. China just joined, as you already heard, but interest expressed recently from up to 26 countries that we hope to turn into real membership. Membership is also there from many of the organizations in the room. So those organizations who are hoping to be service providers, hoping to provide content, materials, tools, networks. So really, this is a partnership between the two. Countries are expressing their need, how they're going to go ahead with this. And then we've got a lot of organizations offering services. And what we're trying to think about is how can we accelerate the two together? So there's mutual benefit from being part of this partnership. We've asked all of our partners to sign up to or to endorse a set of guiding principles. Now, these guiding principles are really important to us. Okay, this is about how we're going to work. Okay, this is about the fact that we want transformational change, that we want to have a globally country-led initiative, that we really want to facilitate learning and change. We're not trying to replicate or take over or do other things that other people are doing. We're trying to be efficient and think about how to speed things up. And that means working together to do this. And we need to do that through respect for gender principles, and to really take a whole of society of approach to change. So we ask our countries and our partners to endorse these principles as we carry on with our work. Governance structure, the countries are at the heart of this partnership. We have an independent global coordination unit that will take its leadership from the steering committee. Steering committee is made up of 12 of our countries and led then by 2 co-chairs, which is currently Colombia and Germany. We then have a members and friends group. And the idea behind this is that it's an inclusive organization, that we learn together and that we build together this partnership. And that sometimes means we won't know the answer. Sometimes means we won't know which direction we're going, but overall it means listening and working together to achieve that. Okay, that's enough about kind of the background, who we are. What are we going to do? Okay, we're taking a phased approach to our work. So since COP in December, we have been working to really put the foundations in place. So we put the governance section in place. We've been thinking about how we're going to work together. How do we communicate? What are the structures? What are the processes? How do we utilize all the experience from all of these partners together? And we've now moving towards what we're calling the operational phase. Now, we're not launching in 150 countries tomorrow. Okay, we'd love to, and that would be the inclusive approach, but we have to go slowly. Okay, we have to start with a handful of countries, 5 countries, 10 countries, identifying how we're going to work with those countries over the next year and to start providing our services in this space. And this is what we're calling our test and build. And then we hope to see you at COP16, where we'll be ready to really improve and expand. What we believe is our accelerator will benefit from being a networked approach and will really profit from that. So we really think about more members as possible as we move forward. So our first phase, UNGA to CBD, we're going to be working in 2 areas. The first is country engagement, and that's really essentially helping countries to strengthen the implementation of their NBSAPs. And then secondly, to take that learning and to try and further accelerate. So hopefully a bit of a turbocharge and take that learning, bring it back to other communities, other organizations, so we can understand what's working, what's not, how to develop, how to grow. That's our thinking. In terms of our country engagement, 2 key features which are important. First of all, we believe that change happens through people, okay? And we want to put people at the heart of this process. And we also believe that change is really context specific. And so we want to understand what the needs are in different country contexts. And we're going to do that through facilitators. Individuals or organizations will be endorsed and embedded into government institutions. And that could be either at a country level, it could be at a regional level, it could be at a landscape or transboundary scale. And those facilitators will be really working to understand what the situation is. And they'll be thinking about how to package and understand what the challenges and what the demands are and communicate that to the global coordination unit. There'll then be a matchmaking facility, okay? The matchmaking facility is then to say, well, what are these challenges? What are these services, these requests, and how can they be responded to? And we'll use an online service to try and support that, an interactive digital platform to try and help us, but there'll also be the personal touch there to try and manage or facilitate challenges when they're upcoming. So the key message here is that this is going to be needs-led, country-led, but we're going to try and utilize and accelerate all the services, tools, and materials that are out there to make and help this happen a little bit faster. Okay, so I said it's needs-based, but we are also trying to understand the landscape a little bit. So we're starting this off by just having a stakeholder mapping survey and a rapid capacity needs survey, which has been out, and that's been, I think, developed at the moment. Sorry, it's available at the moment, and I think you have till the 15th of November. I'm checking with my colleagues to fill that in, and we hope to use that as a basis to understand what some of the challenges are. Okay, so our thinking is then, once we have developed some of our facilitator matchmaking services, that we then take that learning and then try and share it with others. So this is probably a second step that will be developed once we've got those facilitators and those packages in place. And it happens at 2 levels. One is kind of on the knowledge side, really understanding what's worked, what hasn't, what are the services that are needed, what are the demands, how do we capture those and respond to those better? And then secondly, how do we maintain interest and excitement? How do we continue to advocate and support and promote biodiversity, both at a national level, as I mentioned, and a global level? Our website has been launched today, so you can have a look at that, NBSAPaccelerator.org. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you to the colleagues who put that together. And then last not least, just to say, we are now open for business, okay? What can you do? How can you be involved? It's funny, as I came on board a couple of days ago, people kept asking me, but what's this got to do with this initiative? And how does this fit with others? And, oh, but aren't we doing that? And how does that work with the early action program at Jeff? And I'm like, It's okay. Okay, there is plenty to do. Okay, there is room for all of you. All right. All the accelerator is trying to do, I say all, it's quite important, but all it's trying to do is to help it happen faster, okay? Help to make things easier, to facilitate the process and ensure that is in line with the needs of countries and to support them moving forward. So you can become a country or institutional partner, welcome. You can send an expression of interest to host one of those facilitators. We'd love to have you. Come and talk to us if you'd like to do that. And finally, you can complete our survey. Let's understand what your needs are. Let's understand what services you've got to offer. We need to know that information. Be part of the journey. I'll close by saying ambition, acceleration, action, together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I'm going to stay here. So I hope that presentation gives you a bit more information, a bit more understanding of what the value of the Global Accelerator is. I think the key takeaways are that it's about working together for scale and speed. And the accelerator helps us connect all the dots and work together. There's plenty to do. We have an agreement now that is the most ambitious global agreement on biodiversity. It's a blueprint and we need to turn it into action, and this partnership helps us turn it into action. So we're in business. Thank you very much. I'm now going to move over to our two panelists, esteemed panelists who are joining us to discuss the accelerator. And the first panelist is Mariana Panunzio Feldman, the Country Engagement Director of the NDC Partnership. And I'm really excited to hear from you because there are obviously a lot of parallels with the work around climate ambition and the nationally determined contributions. This partnership, rather like the work around climate, has to be rooted in country demand and support to countries in raising and operationalizing that ambition. And so it would be really interesting to hear what the lessons are that you want to give us from the NDC partnership. Yeah, so your lessons and what you see as the value of this partnership moving forward. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Mariana Panunzio Feldman. I'm Director for Country Engagement for the NDC Partnership, and it's a true honor to be here today for the launch of the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership. I am here on behalf of the NDC Partnership to celebrate this exciting moment, which we genuinely believe holds immense promise to accelerate action to support biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Interestingly enough, my own personal journey has been, my roots are in biodiversity conservation. That is where I started. And I then migrated to climate. But for me, being able to bring these two agendas together here today holds a special, special meaning to me. As the Country Engagement Director, I'm privileged to share our perspective based on the experience that we have had over the past few years, supporting the efforts of countries to achieve their nationally determined contributions. So just to give you briefly a bit of history, the NDC partnership came into being 1 year after the adoption of the Paris Agreement at COP22 in Marrakesh. And it basically came into being because there was a recognition that if countries were going to deliver at speed and scale on the climate commitments they had made, we really needed to not just scale up the financing and the support going to countries, but we really needed to address what is a broken system of fragmented cooperation assistance. We need to work together more effectively if we're really going to support countries in achieving their goals. And that is why the NDC partnership came into being. Interestingly enough, we started with approximately 25 countries and like around 6 partner institutions. And we fast forward to today, and the partnership has really grown. And we really hope the same will be true for the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership. We now have over 200 members. 120 of those are developed and developing countries. And we have over 90 international institutions that are members of the partnership. And what we do is, first of all, we are country-led, so very much in the same spirit as the NBSAP Accelerator Partnership. We don't bring an agenda to countries. The countries bring their priorities and their needs to us. And our role is to articulate their priorities and their needs as expressed in their nationally determined contributions, and to harness the full potential of development and implementing partners in helping developing country members deliver. Our work focuses on matchmaking. So you're starting to see some parallels, right? Hopefully. We focus on strengthening coordination, facilitating collaboration, and mobilizing resources to help countries meet their commitments. So from our experience, what I can underline is the absolute value and importance of promoting collaboration and complementarity among various stakeholders involving in supporting countries' NDCs. We see so much duplication of efforts, so much burden on countries to actually understand that landscape, access resources. We need to make things easier for countries to move faster and better. We need to maximize the impact of our collective effort. And one of the several lessons from the partnership is the importance of having lean, simple, yet robust tools and processes to be able to facilitate that matchmaking around the same purpose. And I wanted to underline something that Catherine said. The role of the Secretariat of the Accelerator, much as the role of the support unit, of which I'm part of, for the NDC partnership, is not to do the job of partners. It is for us to leverage the resources of partners. So we need to understand, and what we do in our day-to-day work is to understand the full potential and comparative advantages of different partners so that we can facilitate the deployment of that technical assistance, expertise, and support to the countries. It is not to do the work for them. It's actually to connect them. We have witnessed firsthand the coordination challenges that often arise, both on the country side and on the partner side. So at the country side, we see different teams, sometimes even within the same ministry, responsible for different aspects that pertains to NDCs. So for example, within ministries of environment, different leads for climate and biodiversity, even though we're talking, for example, of nature-based solutions, yet the coordination there exists to, we need to improve coordination. On the partner side, we have also experienced challenges related to coordination within governments that are supporting countries and within organizations. And once again, that's an area where we continue to work with partners so that we really bring their full strength. So we have found that standard tools, clear communication channels and mechanisms for outreach and coordination, and dedicated capacity for coordination. Coordinating is a full-time job, as we know each in our respective areas of work. So dedicated capacity at the global, regional, and national level, including through in-country facilitators that are embedded at the national level to facilitate that coordination, is critical. So our overarching goal, in line with the NDC's partnership mission, is to align climate action with broader development objectives. And we think that there is such a remarkable opportunity to integrate biodiversity conservation and climate action in the collaboration between these two initiatives. So we know that there is a need to bring together and interact, facilitate the collaboration and the responses to the global climate and biodiversity frameworks We need holistic and coherent visions of policies and support at the country level, and we need to help countries in doing that. Our experience is that we get requests so far over the 7 years. We have gotten over 5,000 requests from the countries that are members, and just under 50 countries of the 90 that we have engaged have made requests related to biodiversity conservation and nature more broadly. And within that, we already have some requests related to NBSAPs. So I think that there is an opportunity for us to work together to understand those requests and make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. We're working with the same actors, both on the country side and on the partner side. We are connected, and there's so much more that we can do to really help countries address their needs. Ultimately, issues such as habitat loss, deforestation, pollution, and climate change affect the ecosystems that the communities that rely on them. We need to work together to benefit them. Looking ahead, I wanted to highlight that under the United Arab Emirates COP28 presidency, there is a significant opportunity to further bridge the gap between the biodiversity and the climate agendas. The leadership of the UAE is providing a unique platform to elevate the importance of integrating climate action and biodiversity. We hope to leverage the political moment that the COP28 will provide to strengthen that coherence and to really drive the message forward that we need to address biodiversity conservation and climate change together. So in conclusion, I wanted to say that I want to express my deep gratitude for the opportunity to share with you some of the lessons we've learned over the past 7 years. We have appreciated the opportunity to share some of the insights as the NBSAP Accelerator has come into being, and we're really excited about the opportunity to collaborate moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariana. I think the two key points that came across to me from everything you said was firstly on how coordination is a full-time job. And I think that's especially true when we are focused so heavily on making sure that climate, or in this case, nature, moves out of its silo and be seen as a core development issue, right? And so it will involve including more and more actors across government, across society, so that that coordination, in a way, because of the complexity and the need for integration, becomes even more important. So that was the first sort of point from what you said. And then I think the second point is on that link between nature and climate, right? That more and more we are seeing nature rise up in prominence as a really critical, burning global and national issue, alongside climate, which until this time has really received the bulk of the focus and attention. And it's very interesting to hear that you're already getting a lot of requests to support NBSAPs, and we'll need to make sure that we work closely together. So thank you very much for that. Okay, I'm now going to move on to our next panelist, who is Rita El Zaghloul, who is the director of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. Rita is at the forefront of efforts to deliver on Target 3 of the Global Biodiversity Framework, focused on 30x30, which aims to effectively conserve at least 30% of territorial and inland water areas, as well as marine and coastal areas by 2030. So Rita, the same question to you, really. What do you see as the value of this global accelerator? And based on what you've heard today in your own experience, what are the key lessons and insights that you have to make this accelerator a success?
Thank you so much, Francine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning. And first, I want to start by thanking the government of Germany and Colombia for inviting me and for inviting the HAC Secretariat to be part of this event. we're very excited to see the launch of this first phase of the accelerator. As was mentioned before by the director, we are all in this together. Germany has also, and Colombia have also been very crucial and key in the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People. So we're very happy to see this first phase. We were very impressed on Monday when we saw all the work, and very excited to see that everything is now moving forward. So just wanted to start by acknowledging all the efforts and really congratulating you on this first phase of this launch. Also, just wanted to salute my co-panelists, Catherine and Mariana. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with you. As you all know, or you might not know, the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People is a coalition that was created a few years ago, co-led also by the government of Costa Rica, France, and the UK. And the main aim of the coalition was back in 2019, when all the efforts started, was to really put on the agenda at the highest level 30 by 30. And so we spent the last 3 years trying to get 30 by 30 towards the cross line, and we managed to do that. Going back to today and how we see the NBSAP Accelerator and also the NDC Partnership, because we have also been very much in contact with colleagues from the NDC Partnership, how we see the value and the collaboration between the three. And I think you mentioned this, Catherine, we all need to be part of this journey. There's a lot to do and there's a lot of work, and we're from the High Ambition Coalition Secretariat, we're very much ready to collaborate and to work together in this sense. I think the first element to mention is that the accelerator and the 30 by 30s or the HAC Secretariat, the first thing is that there's a lot of commonalities and a lot of collaboration that could be done. First, I want to mention also that the scope of the two is quite different. The HAC is very much focused solely on target 3. And the NBSAP Accelerator brings much more, as you were mentioning, Catherine, really brings the whole of the NBSAP together, and we're part of that. So we're very happy to be continuing on collaborating and on bringing that part into the equation. So that's the first element. I also see that, and has been discussed today, many collaboration could be done on the political level. I think an important element that we've seen from the HAC perspective is that having the engagement from the political level and from the technical level is key. So it has always been our focus to have this political track and technical track to make sure that we're advancing. And I think it will be very similar in the case of the accelerator. And we're very happy to see how we can enhance and really accelerate our action together, bringing, because it was mentioned before, those same actors together, because I think that an important element is really trying to see how we can connect all our efforts and how it's really being put together and not singling out some elements, but really trying to collaborate together. And the second element is on the matchmaking tools. It was mentioned before by Mariana, the High Ambition Coalition is also working on matchmaking tools. And so we are very much looking forward to see how we can coordinate and collaborate to make sure that those matchmaking tools talk to each other, that we're really collaborating on trying to make it easier for countries, because at the end, it is also the case of the HAC that it's very much needs-based. So this is the second element. And then the third element that I would want to highlight is really maintaining that momentum. And I think it was mentioned also by Mariana. We see this momentum happening both on a political and on a technical level. So in the upcoming months in October, we will be having engagement at the SAPSTA meeting with the technical teams, trying to make sure that the tools that we have been progressing on within the High Ambition Coalition are put in place. And so we're very much looking forward to see how we can also bring in the NBSAP Accelerator into that discussion with the technical teams, and to already start looking on ways on how we can engage the two. And then also, of course, on COP28, it was mentioned yesterday at the event that we organized. The COP28 is really the next political big momentum that we see. And so we're very much looking forward to see how we can coordinate together and really try to put this on the highest agenda. We know that during the different COPs, and for example, even during this week at UNGA, ministers and heads of state and heads of government are running from one event to another, and we're trying to see how we can make sure that we bring that attention and that we really try to coordinate our efforts. So we're very much looking forward to see how within the HAC and the NBSAP Accelerator we can come together, collaborate, and bring that big momentum at COP28 as well. So in a nutshell, just to say, I think we see a lot of value, and we are very much excited to see how we can continue on working with the NBSAP Accelerator. I must say this has not been something new. Since the beginning of the creation of the NBSAP Accelerator, we have been already discussing this because, as I mentioned, Germany and Colombia and also Norway and many of the countries that were mentioned before are also part of the High Ambition Coalition. So we want to make sure to send also this signal that we're collaborating together, that it is a collaborative effort, and we're very much looking forward to continue on doing that. So really want to thank once again the governments of Colombia and Germany for their invitations to this important event, and very much looking forward to collaborate very closely with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rita. And, listening to you, I am struck by the amount, the scale of the learning that we can benefit from these other initiatives that have been going on. And I think for me, perhaps the most important point that you mentioned above all was the importance of pursuing a political and a technical track, because at the end of the day, this requires political prioritization and leadership. Right, and we need to connect that technical and political track, and that requires some serious strategizing and engagement. So I think that's very, very important. So I'd like to thank you so much, Mariana and Rita, for your insights, and also reiterate as UNDP and on behalf of Catherine, that we are really excited and looking forward to support and engage on this initiative. I think the key points that we wanted to bring home is that as we move to action, it has to be grounded in country experience and country demand. And we have to, through this partnership, achieve a very ambitious scale and do it fast. So I think those are the key things. So good luck. Thank you. All right. Now, when we began this session, our Colombian co-chair wasn't with us, but she is now. I saw her come into the room just now. So if you're ready, I'd like to introduce Maria Teresa Becerra, who is the head of environmental affairs at the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development from Colombia. As we mentioned, we really appreciate the support, leadership, and co-chair role that Colombia played along with Germany to support this initiative.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, sorry, I was stuck in the traffic. I didn't realize that it would be that difficult to come by bus. I just want to acknowledge your participation in this event. As Colombia, we are very excited to work on this accelerator and this partnership with Germany, and also with all of you that are interested. As you may know, we on Monday we have the interim steering committee meeting, and it was a very good result for us. We have already like an agreement on the governments and the process that is going to have the accelerator before COP16. So I just want to say that all of you are very much invited to join us, to express, those that haven't done yet, to express your interest in being partners or being part of the countries that are supporting the initiative. And also, I want to thank you, Germany, because I think it has been a very good joint work with Germany in developing and formulating these initiatives and pushing up. And so I think I just see that we have a very good road of success till the COP16 now with also with the team of the coordination unit starting to work. So I think I don't have more to say. We are going to be working with the countries. We want to meet each one to know what are your ideas, what are the gaps for funding, what are the possibilities that you see for this accelerator. So I think we have many things to build yet. So just very welcome for you and all the interested for your ideas and your support to this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. I'm sorry that it took you so long to get to the session, but again, thank you for your leadership and for your inspiration in establishing this partnership along with Germany. That concludes for this session. I believe we are. Shall I now hand over to you? Okay.
So I would. This one? Okay. So I'd like to invite the panelists to come up and join me if that is possible. So we have Alfred Okidi he's the permanent secretary from the Ministry of Water and Environment from Uganda. Come on up, please. Come on and sit in the chairs. And so then this is Alfred. We have Lynn Lee, who's the Senior Director of Global Policy and Advocacy from WWF for Nature, the World Wildlife Fund. Jennifer Tali Corpus, the Director for Policy at Unitero, and she's also representing the IIFB today. And then we have Constanza Torres, who's the National Engagement and Advocacy Lead for Business for Nature. So as you heard from all of the previous speakers, in order for this to be a success, in order for us to implement the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Fund and to have effective NBSAPs, will require a whole of government, whole of society approach towards implementation. And we do need to build synergies with existing initiatives, both in terms of biodiversity initiatives and also other initiatives like climate initiatives. And we need to better work with different forms of partners. And so what we have here on the panel today is people representing the government side of things, the NGO side, Indigenous people in local communities and businesses. And so the question that I have for the different panelists to get this discussion started is in the context of biodiversity conservation and NBSAP implementation, how can we do this? How can we work through this NBSAP Accelerator Partnership to really build this whole of government, whole of society approach from your perspective? And also, how do we build the global movement, which we were just hearing in the last session is going to be necessary to elevate this to the highest level? And I would like to also say, as I will invite the panelists now, but also people in the room in this session are welcome to express your views. So I'll start with going to Alfred. So from the government perspective, what is your view on how do we really mobilize together and take this forward?
Thank you. And I would like to thank the organizers and the government of Germany and Colombia for ensuring that I'm here. Thank you. Uganda is a small country right in the middle of Africa. But in terms of biodiversity, I think we are amongst the top 10 most diverse countries in the world. Just to put it in context, we have more than 54% of the mountain gorillas, more than 50% of the bird species of Africa, and over 1,700 species of vertebrae, and not just to mention amphibians. And our range is from mountain, 5,000 to a lowland of 500 meters. So it is home to a lot of biodiversity. And the government therefore takes biodiversity very seriously. We are actually on our second plan for National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. And I think this accelerator that has been launched, and we subscribe to it deliberately, because we understand and appreciate the role in terms of bringing biodiversity to the forefront of development. Losses in biodiversity are slow, and by the time we realize it, it is always rather late. And at national level and policy and sectoral level, very little attention is normally paid to the biodiversity. So this really creates the opportunity for that engagement. But the funding for biodiversity is also quite low. Even in my country, where we generate more than 30% of the external revenue from biodiversity-related activities. Therefore, the fact is stuck that we need to protect, we need to conserve, and we look at ourselves as stewards for the world. So this will create opportunity for that engagement, for mobilization of resources at the local level and at the international level. We're excited about the matchmaking opportunities, because the various fauna and flora we have in terms of taxonomy, in terms of the germ plasma, we have limited knowledge. So working together with partners, I think it will create the opportunity for better information, hence our ability to manage biodiversity better for the globe. And we are looking at this also to create regional synergies. Because if you look at things like the mountain gorillas, for example, although we have more than 50%, the rates are in neighboring countries. So handling this from a transboundary perspective, I think is crucial. And we look at this partnership to strengthen that. But also, really, a coalition of like-minded people or governments is easier to work with. If I go to another sovereign government to put up a plan to conserve biodiversity, I'm looking at more than 3 years before that program is approved by the two governments. But I'm looking at this accelerator partnership to shorten that duration and create urgent action that is needed for us to conserve biodiversity. And therefore, I'd like to say thank you to UNDP and UNEP, with whom we have existing partnership. And Uganda looks at itself as being really a hub where this knowledge can be generated and shared with the rest of Africa and the rest of the world for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. I think you have definitely done an excellent job reiterating the demand for this accelerator. I'll now hand over to Lynn to talk about her perspective from the sort of NGO world.
Thank you, Jill. So as WWF and together with many other non-government players, we've been played a very critical role and working together with governments to reach this global biodiversity framework that has built enabling conditions, not only about conserving, addressing drivers, but also enabling conditions to really deliver so that we don't repeat the unsuccess framework years ago, so make sure that we do deliver the vision we need, which is a halt and reverse the biodiversity loss by 2030 to be nature positive. For that, now we're into the phase of implementation. So as WWF, we've been working already with countries. We actually have been working with more than 20 countries in various stages of developing their or renewing their NBSAPs. So we observed quite a few the needs as well, and also the momentum now starting. So to do that, we also think that what is that the NBSAP we need. So we actually developed a NBSAP we need, which have covering the 5 areas and 19 criteria that we think the NBSAPs in the future should really address. And we were going to really share with wider stakeholders in October during this SAPSTA. I will not explain the name. I think you all know that name. And then that is really covering about ambition, about implementing, about a whole of a society approach, about human rights based approach, and about measuring the progress so that we actually take the action, keep our words, and deliver what we need. And in addition to that, we also engaging not only government, but a wide spectrum of stakeholders. And we do have the very veteran players like the traditional conservation organizations. We work together, we advocate, we implement together, but we're also trying to really engage non-traditional conservation organizations because they are participants really needed if we go whole of society approach. For example, we are developing this NBSAP toolkit so that we can really share with the business, the faith group, the humanitarian organizations or development organizations, so that they become aware and then they can really participate meaningfully, and that we play that role as we go. And we also work very closely with the youth group, indigenous people groups, and local communities as we go. I can just I don't want to name names, but I'm mentioning one country. At WWF is a player there. We work with a country where we bring the women, the indigenous people, the stakeholders together to discuss with the country, the ministry, talk about NBSAP in that country. So that's going to continue to happen. And we are also going to be very happy and be a very active player, organizational member of this NBSAP Accelerator Partnership to continue what we do. Thank you. Thank you. And the last point I want to say is that this accelerator is really to accelerate, which is already there. We know it's a web of initiatives and processes, and some big country has capacity to navigate and really gain benefit. But there are also countries really limited capacity, limited knowledge. I really hope this accelerator can be the one cutting through all the processes and really bring the needs and the demand and the support to that needs in a quick and easy way, and to at this process ensure that the stakeholders, wide spectrum, the youth, the women, the IPLCs, and also non-traditional conservation organizations join in. That's first point. The second point I want to suggestion as the partnership is that we all call for all of society approach, whole of government approach. We also know that the nature is not really standing alone, and the NBSAP should not be standing alone. And we hear Mariana talk about with climate change, but also thinking about the national planning. If you look at target 1 about spatial planning, that covers wider than environment ministry. So I think NBSAP Accelerator thinking about how do we prioritize the initiatives that can really cutting across the sectors, cutting across the ministries, and then really bring the nature mainstreamed into the national planning, budgeting process, and prioritize those needs so that we can really build the momentum, build a critical mass, so to deliver. I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think this is exactly the idea that we were talking about in the first sessions as well, and having this big tent where everybody is a part of it and moving forward together. I'll now hand over to Jennifer to talk about your perspective from the IIFB and the indigenous people and local communities.
Hello, and if you don't mind, I'm going to stand here. I feel very insecure in the high chair. Thank you. The indigenous peoples and local communities are very invested in contributing to the implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework and the CBD as a whole, and ensuring the success of the GBF. So that's the reason why we participated quite intensively in the negotiations. So, and we were very pleased to see that in the negotiations, the central role of indigenous peoples in local communities in the targets and the goals was recognized. We see this in the different targets that explicitly mention indigenous peoples, but also in the other targets that have implications on the work of indigenous peoples and the roles, rights, and contributions. So we see, for For example, Target 1 that recognizes that Indigenous peoples have our own spatial plans and it would be relevant to the national spatial plans. Target 3, which mentions Indigenous peoples and our rights specifically in 3 separate sections. We think that we need to continue a central role in the implementation. So going beyond being included in the targets, but even more importantly, being part of the implementation. And this is why we've been following up quite intensively on the development of guidance on Target 3, but on inclusivity and equity in implementation of the GBF as a whole. Because we know that a lot of the Indigenous rights language were late additions to the text. And so we may not have been, that text might not have been considered in the process of developing the indicators, for example. It may not have been considered in the usual conception of how 30 by 30 would be implemented. So we feel excited that there is this initiative, the accelerator, because we think that a lot of technical capacity, a lot of technical guides need to be developed to elaborate on exactly how Indigenous peoples should be part of the implementation of the GBF. We also engaged in the expert workshop on the work on the new program of work of the Working Group on Article 8J and related provisions, and we put in there what we feel would be a good work program to follow up on the GBF, and we hope that we can. There's going to be a meeting in November, and we're hoping that there can be support for that that new program of work. None of this would be possible without resources. So in the GEF meeting in Vancouver earlier this year, we also had a presence, the IIFP, and we were very pleased at the aspirational percentage that was adopted there of 20% of the Global Biodiversity Fund going to Indigenous peoples. We hope as directly as possible and trying to cut out the intermediaries, but we know that may not be immediately possible. And we feel that this is an aspirational percentage that should also cut across all of the funds that are devoted to biodiversity implementation. The IIFP is forming now our country implementation teams. So all of those that were participating in the negotiations, but even beyond that, we have membership in on the ground in the different countries. And we hope that these implementation teams can be partners as well in the NBSAP Accelerator. And we hope that, that we can coordinate and collaborate so that we can encourage countries. And in that regard, I actually noted down the guidelines, the principles, the guiding principles that are relevant. We are very pleased to see that Principle 8 calls for supporting inclusive country processes, as well as guiding Principle 10 on respecting human rights and promoting gender parity. And all of these principles, they resonate strongly with the IIFD. And, NBSAP revision is underway. I think even before this accelerator partnership, we were very surprised that the countries were moving so fast towards revising their NBSAPs. We have been scrambling to be involved and to be engaged. We've been supporting partners to be part of that revision process. But I think more importantly, beyond revision, we also need to be a central part of the implementation. So we need to be part of mapping where we could expand on Target 3. And what we've seen, what I've seen personally in the Philippines is most of the areas for expansion are going to be in indigenous territories, in Ecuador as well, and in some of the other countries where we are supporting participation of indigenous peoples in national implementation. The last thing I would like to say is that we need also policy review because of some of the new language introduced in the Global Biodiversity Framework. We think that there would need to be a review of national policies as well as a revision so as to make sure that the need to implement the GBF is reflected in national law and policy. Thank you.
Thank you for these remarks. And exactly as you have said, certainly this will not be a success if Indigenous people and local communities are not involved in the implementation and in the work on NBSAP implementation. I'll now hand over as our final panelist to Costanza to talk to us about how she sees this from the business for nature.
Hello, hello. Yeah, it's working now. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting us to this event. I would like to say congratulations to the NBSAP Accelerator team, who has been doing an amazing job. I think it's great to see so much progress in such a short period of time. We're very excited to be part of this initiative and to be able to contribute to the accelerator's objectives. So for those of you who don't know who is Business for Nature, very quickly, we are a global coalition of more than 85 partners, and our mission is to drive credible business action and policy ambition to achieve a nature positive economy by 2030. So from Business for Nature perspective, and I think it's something that we have seen globally, nature and biodiversity are topics that are rising up in the business and finance agendas in the past few years. And we think this is an opportunity that we cannot miss. We think it's the right time to start having these engagements, these dialogues with the business and finance communities to really establish or strengthen collaboration partnerships with them. And also from the CBD side, I mean, the COP15 was an unprecedented event for the business community. We have never seen so much engagement and participation from them. And also, it is the first time that the CBD countries really strongly recognize their role on business and finance to achieve the convention's objectives. So we think that's very positive, and we think that the right time to act is now. And how can Business for Nature contribute to the accelerator? We have developed some guidance documents for governments in the past few months. We have been busy this year. We have developed recommendations on how can governments effectively include the role of business and finance in the NBSAP updating process with 8 high-level recommendations. We have also launched a guidance document on how to implement Target 15, which is the business target, as some of you may know. This is a more comprehensive document. It has 10 recommendations, but it also includes tools and methodologies that governments can use, also some case studies. And of course, this has been done in collaboration with our partners, some relevant initiatives such as SBTN, TNFD, CDP, and many others. And that's at the global level. But I want to share a little bit of the work that we have done at the national level. We have been working with Colombia, South Africa, and Malaysia, thanks to the generous support of the GEF and CI as an implementing agency. And with these 3 countries, we have been working with the governments through our national partners, which are most of them national business associations. So this could be like an equivalent to the in-country facilitators of the accelerator. And here, the idea is to support these countries on how to include the business and finance role in their NBSAPs. I mean, we think that for each country, the way they want to include them in their NBSAPs is different. It would depend on their national needs. Some of them might want to include a business action plan as part of the NBSAP or a business chapter. Some others want to maybe include it as a cross-cutting issue throughout the targets. So that depends on each country. But I think something that it's very, very important at this stage is to really engage with businesses in this business government dialogue. So at an early stage, so that the interests and the responsibilities from both parts are accurately and clearly reflected in the NBSAPs. And this will also create a sense of ownership for companies, for the business community to really be familiar with the NBSAP and be ready to implement during the implementation phase. So there's many things that I think they are aligned with the partnership, and I mean, we're very excited, and we stand ready to collaborate with all of you and with all the governments in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I am being told that we are out of time for this session, so I will quickly wrap up. I think, as you've heard, I mean, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework does include a real challenge, because it's not only about the traditional biodiversity conservation, but really looking at the drivers and the pressures. And so in order for us to achieve the framework and to really turn the tide, there is a need to have many, many different people involved. And as was pointed out by the first speaker, this also depends on the different local and national context. In different environments, there will be a need for different partners engaged and different actions. And so mapping this out and matching it in a way that's logical and makes sense, this is at the core of the ambition of this partnership. And so I think with that, I will wrap up this session and hand over for our final remarks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and colleagues, I'm Miriam, and I have the privilege of representing the NBSAP Accelerator Global Coordination Unit. So it's the first time we can say that, so it's a big deal for us. No, I must say I was truly inspired by the remarkable insights and discussions we've had this morning. And especially the focus on how do we create a whole of society approach. So the last panel, we talk about that. What does that actually mean? How do we actually put it into action? Now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our next speaker for this event. This is Mr. Bard Vegar Suliel, the General Director of the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, NORAD. Now, as many of you have heard, Norway has been an unwavering supporter of the accelerator, and NORAD's leadership has been instrumental in driving positive change. So, Mr. Suliel, we eagerly await your insights and are grateful again for Norway's continued commitment. Over to you.
So how do you sum up this? Scientists believe that there were as much as 16 million trees on Easter Island when a group of Polynesians arrived there, probably sometime in the 13th century. So it must have been incredibly fertile because it's a small island. When Captain James Cook and his crew arrived in 1774, if I'm not mistaken, there were no trees left. They'd been cut down. And, you know, without trees, they couldn't build boats. Without boats, they couldn't fish. And without fish, nothing to live from. And without trees, of course, the soil, you know, was depleted because of the wind and the rain and the elements of the sun, basically. And you could hardly grow anything. So the society with at its most as many as 10 to 15,000 inhabitants, and scientists believe, collapsed in famine and a huge population decrease. And I was reminded of this story, you know, because sometimes we speak of, and I do it myself, as nature as an issue. But what are we without nature? Nothing really, you know. Development is not possible without nature. And this story is told in Jared Diamond's great book Collapse, which I read, yeah, a couple of decades ago. But this, which is, you know, was one example. The truth today is that this situation exists globally today. And I work and lead a development agency. And the way we think about it now is that we have to take a holistic approach to nature, climate, and development. Every Norwegian kroner or US dollar we spend on development has to be spent on a nature positive development and in a development which reduces carbon emissions. Every kroner. But also the other way around, when we do climate finance or finance nature, we have to do it in ways that actually help poor people and societies develop. So nature is also about people. And that's also why I'm really glad to be able to announce today that the Norwegian government over 3 years will finance the NBSAP Accelerator with, and I had to check for the currency rate because of the decreasing value of the Norwegian currency now, with $5.6 million for 3 years. Thank you, and also we'll do that based on that same approach. This is also part of our work with global development. Let me just also end by taking away 3 very brief, you know, kind of takeaways from this 1.5 hour which I've been listening to here. First is, of course, as everyone is stating, it's about a whole of government approach. A former Norwegian prime minister once said, and we, you know, I've kind of laughed at the first time, that everything is connected to everything else. But it's true, everything is connected to everything else. So in a way, it's about our common job now is to operationalize that. Secondly, like many have also pointed to, take people into account when we work, you know, with gender equality, human rights, indigenous people. It's about people anyway, so let's make sure we work with them from the outside. And thirdly, and also importantly to us, we have to base the work we do on evidence, on learning, and on sharing that knowledge. I think it's really important that the accelerator takes that into account, building that into its work with countries from the outset. So just to end by thanking the many contributors here. Thanks, of course, to Germany and Colombia for the really important work you've been doing in leadership. To the other parts of the committee will continue to contribute to, thanks to the UN agencies that involved here. And then I think we should finish just by congratulating each other. This is not the end, this is the start, but it's an important start.
Wow, well, this is very exciting. Maybe another round of applause, please. The news that Norway is tripling their financial commitment to the accelerator is nothing short of remarkable. So this is truly the start of a big adventure, but also the celebration of the big adventure. And it reflects the belief, as Mr. Suliel said, that together we can bring about the transformations and the change for our planet's biodiversity that we've been talking about. So today starts also, is the day when we get to work very actively. Now, as we come to the closing moments of this event, I personally would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Norway again for their generosity, but of course Germany for their generosity, and Colombia as well for their leadership. Your generosity and your commitment will undoubtedly propel our efforts as the IGCU forward. So thank you again. Now, to provide us with the last closing remarks that will inspire us to move forward with renewed determination, it is my honor to introduce Mr. David Cooper, Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity. David, we eagerly await your words of wisdom and guidance as we embark in this new adventure. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eva. And let me start by, again, expressing our appreciation to all the governments involved in this, but starting with the governments of Colombia and Germany, to Minister Susanna Mohammed and Steffi Lemke, and for the contributions that we've heard. Thanks so much for this announcement, this important announcement of the tripling of Norway's contribution. We heard also yesterday of Germany's increased contribution, additional 10 million, bringing it to 40 million. On top of course, support for the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund. So together we have a lot of support for this, and it's, I think, an important vote of thanks, right, for what is being put together here. I'd also really like to express my sincere gratitude to Maria Teresa Bacara and to Christiane Paulus for their leadership, including the leadership of the steering committee and the important meeting that took place yesterday. I'd also like to thank our partners from the CBD Secretariat's point of view, our partners in UNEP and UNDP, and all the others that are working to make this initiative a success. As we know, and as many have said, right, in Montreal, we adopted an incredibly ambitious framework, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It's not going to be easy to implement this, and we have a little over 6 years to do that. We need really transformative changes, right, across society, across our economies to do that. And we need to do this quickly. So for the 3 words I think that Catherine mentioned before, we need ambition, we need action, and we need acceleration. We've had, I think, a very impressive set of statements and various panelists today, and it's good to see, I think, such strong leadership by women, right? If you reflect on the panels that we, from the ministers, from the chairs of the steering committee, from our coordinator, from our partner, 3 partner agencies, from indigenous peoples, business, civil society, we've seen extremely powerful leadership. And I was just thinking, what is this all about? It is very much about, I think, learning together so that we can act together. We will need, of course, to ensure that we have ownership and leadership by countries, and that we have a whole of government approach across all of the sectors. Let me say it's good to see FAO in the room as well. The food and agriculture sector, of course, is going to be key to this, and across the whole of society. And I think we had some very important lessons just now in this panel. We will need to engage business, civil society, and of course, indigenous peoples, women's group, youth. And in fact, we need to do that to be faithful to the framework, right? As Jennifer pointed out so strongly just now. Going forward, we will need to certainly be ambitious. We need to move quickly, but we need to do that in an inclusive way and a just way. This isn't going to be easy. We, I think, have also big opportunities to learn from the experience of earlier rounds of the development and implementation of NBSAPs under the Aichi targets. We can certainly learn from the experience of the NDC partnership, and I thought that was a very interesting and useful presentation. We can make sure that not only we learn from that experience, but we work closely together to ensure that we can seize these synergies as demanded in one of the principles, right, of looking at how we work on biodiversity, climate change, food systems, and other challenges together. And indeed, again, we need to do that to be faithful to the framework. We can learn from the High Ambition Coalition and from other initiatives. We can learn from the experience of the enabling activities that have been supported by the GEF this time round and previously. We have, as I mentioned, just 6 years to act. Let's all come together. This is also the half-time point in the 2030 agenda. And as has been said in the General Assembly Hall, and the other halls in the UN just now, we are woefully off track in achieving the SDGs, including the SDGs 14 and 15, but of course the others that biodiversity underpins. We really do need to accelerate action. I'm sure with this kind of initiative, with the kind of determination that we've heard this morning, we can pull together and win in the second half. But let's move forward. Thanks again to all the partners, to all the governments, civil society, our partners across the UN. Let's make this happen. Let's do this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David, for your inspiring and closing remarks and for putting the dots together. It's not just the UN General Assembly, it's New York Climate Week, and it's the launch of the NBSAP Accelerator. So how do we put them all together? And again, for your unwavering commitment to the cause of biodiversity conservation, yours and everyone here in the room. As we conclude this momentous event, let us carry the collective resolve to make a difference together in the world of biodiversity. So it's an invitation to work with us. And we have witnessed remarkable dedication and support from all corners, including all the representatives here in this room and throughout the 3 days in the Nature Hub. Because for some of you, you may know, but a couple of us here have been participating in other events throughout the week. This is a Nature Positive Hub. So let us promote these collaborative efforts so we can strengthen the NBSAP Accelerator and deliver and fortify NBSAPs, NDCs, and SDGs, right? Thank you again all for your dedication and participation in today's event. And again, I want to thank the hosts, so Nature for Climate and Nature Positive Hub. And a special note to all the UNDP colleagues in the back of the room that have been here from a very early time helping out. Thank you all for making this event a reality, and good day to all.